The gym at 10:22 on a Tuesday morning is a completely different place from the gym at 6 a.m. You've been going at 6 a.m. for 9 years. You know the 6 a.m. version intimately, the specific handful of regulars who are always there, the trainer who opens up and never speaks until he's had his coffee, the way the machines are still cold from the night, the hard efficiency of a person who has exactly 44 minutes before they have to be somewhere. You know that gym. You don't know this one. The women on the ellipticals are in their late 60s, talking to each other across the machines with the easy continuity of people who have been having this conversation for years and find it genuinely sufficient. A man near the free weights, maybe 73, short-sleeved collared shirt, the kind of man who still tucks things in at the gym, is doing curls with the unhurried focus of someone who has made a complete and total peace with what his body is now willing to do. There's a television on the wall running cable news on mute with subtitles. Someone has left a water bottle on a bench with a towel folded on top of it, marking territory in the specific way people do when they step away and want the spot to know they're coming back. Nobody looks at you. Nobody is expecting you. Nobody needs anything from you in the next 45 minutes or the next 4 hours or, as far as you can currently locate, the next Tuesday after this one. You've been here 24 minutes, you've done 18 on the treadmill and spent the remaining 6 standing near the dumbbell rack trying to remember what comes next in the sequence. You have always had a sequence. For 9 years, the sequence organized itself around the hard stop at the other end, the 7:15 call, or the 8 a.m. stand-up, or the drive to the office with the coffee cooling in the cup holder. The hard stop made the sequence possible. Without the hard stop, the sequence just stands there, looking at you, waiting for instructions. You pick up a pair of 35s, you do a set, you put them down. The wire cleared 11 days ago, $22.4 million gross. After federal and state tax, after advisor fees and legal fees and the earn-out structure your attorney explained twice in formal language and once in plain English, when you asked her to stop being an attorney for 60 seconds, the real number is $14.8 million. It lives in a brokerage account managed by a wealth advisor named Steven, who has a firm handshake and a calm that is either genuine or very expensive to maintain. Steven has strong opinions about asset allocation. You've been to 2 meetings with Steven and come away from both of them understanding approximately 70% of what was said, which Steven seems to find acceptable. $14.8 million, you are 41 years old. You are standing next to a dumbbell rack at 10:31 on a Tuesday morning, and the man with the tucked-in shirt is starting his 3rd set, and you have not decided what to do next. This started 12 years ago in a 2-bedroom apartment in Columbus with a folding table you bought from a Target and assembled incorrectly and then reassembled on a Sunday afternoon while listening to a podcast you can no longer remember. The company was called Meridian Ops. You named it on a legal pad on the floor of the 2nd bedroom, wrote 12 names, crossed out 11, circled that one. It did operations consulting for mid-sized e-commerce companies growing faster than their internal processes could handle. Companies that had figured out how to get customers but hadn't figured out how to keep the back end from catching fire every time order volume spiked. You knew this problem specifically because you'd spent 4 years watching it from the inside. A logistics coordinator role at a fulfillment company in Columbus. Salary $51,000. The kind of job that teaches you everything about what's broken in an industry while providing limited opportunity to fix any of it. You were not miserable. Miserable would have been cleaner. You were the particular kind of unsatisfied that doesn't announce itself, doesn't give you a clean moment of decision, it just accumulates. You drove home from work one evening in February, sat in your car in the parking lot of your apartment complex for 11 minutes for no specific reason, went inside and opened the legal pad. That was the origin. No drama, no inciting incident, just a parking lot and 11 minutes and something that had been accumulating for 4 years finally reaching a density where it had to go somewhere. The first client was a housewares company in Cincinnati doing $4 million in revenue and hemorrhaging it through fulfillment errors, return processing, and a warehouse management system their operations manager had built in Excel over 18 months and was now genuinely afraid to touch. You charged $4,000 for a process audit, drove to Cincinnati twice, delivered a 22-page report and a 6-week implementation plan. The operations manager, a methodical guy named Tom who communicated almost entirely through forwarded email chains, implemented everything and told his founder the systems had always been there, they just needed to be documented. Tom's founder called you directly the following month. You charged $6,500. She paid the same week without a single clarifying question. Tom still forwards you email chains sometimes, just because. It's oddly nice. The mechanics of 12 years of building a company are not interesting to anyone who wasn't inside them, which is everyone except you and the 9 people who worked there at the end. What they looked like from the inside was this: a lot of Sunday nights. A lot of reading the same client email 4 times to make sure you were reading the tone correctly. A lot of decisions that felt enormous in the moment and turned out not to matter, and a handful that felt routine and turned out to matter enormously. A payroll that started at 1 person, which was you, and grew to 11. The distance between those 2 numbers is not measured in years, it's measured in conversations, and the specific weight of being responsible for what other people take home at the end of the month. You moved out of the apartment and into a shared co-working space in year 3. 2 desks, a conference room you could book in 2-hour blocks. You hired your first employee that same month. Her name was Claire Osei, 28, an MBA she hadn't finished. 2 years at a supply chain firm she'd left because she said they weren't doing anything interesting. She meant it as a criterion. You took it as one. Claire ran operations for 7 years. She's currently COO of a logistics tech startup in Atlanta that has raised $18 million and will, based on everything you know about how Claire works, earn every dollar of the valuation. She cried at the closing dinner, not loudly. She turned toward the window, and when she turned back, she said something about having emails to send. You saw it. You didn't say anything. Some moments you just hold and don't handle. You think about that more than you expected to. That she cried. That you let it be what it was. The acquisition came through a private equity firm out of Chicago, building a platform of operations consulting companies across the Midwest. They approached you in January of last year with a number that was flattering and a structure that required a lot of questions. 4 months of diligence, an LOI in May, a purchase agreement that ran 214 pages and which you read in full every page at a pace your attorney found exhausting, and you found necessary. You closed on a Thursday. 7 people in the room, 3 from the buyer, 2 attorneys, your CFO Gary, 6 years with you, cried less visibly than Claire, but cried in you. The buyer's lead partner shook your hand and said you'd built something real, which is a thing people say at closings and usually means approximately nothing. He said it differently. Or maybe you needed it to mean something and so it did. You're not sure you can be objective about that particular moment. You drove home alone. Dana was at work. You'd asked her not to take the day off, maybe because having someone there to react to would have required you to perform a feeling before you'd actually had it. You needed to have it first. The drive was 22 minutes. You don't remember most of it. Here's what 12 years of building a company does that you don't understand until it's gone. It organizes time, not just the calendar, the actual texture of time, the way a day has weight, the way Monday morning is different from Friday afternoon in a way that isn't arbitrary, isn't social convention, but is load-bearing. There is somewhere to be. There is something that needs doing that only you can do in the way you do it. The problems follow you on vacation. The phone doesn't fully go silent. You resented both of these things many times across many years. You did not understand until Tuesday at 10:22 a.m. in a gym full of retirees that the resentment and the meaning were the same thing, that the problem following you on vacation was the proof of the thing. You traded that proof, deliberately, for $14.8 million and a Stephen with strong opinions about municipal bonds. It's a reasonable trade, you want to be clear about that. You are not saying it was wrong, you're saying it was real in ways you were not equipped to anticipate. The emptiness doesn't feel like depression. You've read about depression, and it has a texture you'd recognize. This feels more like a room with all the furniture removed. The walls are fine, the windows are fine, the light comes in the same way, but the furniture is gone and your body keeps moving toward where the couch used to be. You wake up at 6:15. 11 years of habit, your body does not accept the permission to sleep later. You make coffee, you make the bed, you check the brokerage, which has not changed in any way that requires your attention. You read for 40 minutes. You go to the gym. At the gym, you stand next to a dumbbell rack and can't remember the sequence. Dana comes home from the architecture firm in the evenings, and you've been home all day, and she asks how your day was, and you say fine, and she waits one beat longer than she used to. Not long enough to be a statement, long enough to be a question you haven't answered yet. She doesn't push. This is one of about 40 things you love about her. She waits for you to arrive at the thing on your own, and then she's already there when you get there. You told her on a Sunday, 2 weeks after closing, that you didn't know who you were without the company. You said it looking at the floor, which is how you say the things that embarrass you. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You were someone before the company. You were the person who started it." You didn't know what to do with that. You still don't. But it's in there somewhere, doing whatever thoughts do when they're still becoming something. The wealth at this level is not what you pictured, and the not what you pictured is not a complaint. What it is administrative. Stephen's meetings, the estate attorney, the quarterly reviews. The specific strange responsibility of having enough money that mismanaging it is a real and documentable risk. You traded one set of operational problems for another set, quieter, less visible, conducted in conference rooms with better coffee. What the money does, the only thing it actually does that you can feel in your body, is silence a frequency, a low-level signal you didn't know was running until it stopped. The specific fear of the unrecoverable thing, of the real catastrophe, the business failing, the payroll bouncing, the kind of wrong you can't talk your way out of, that frequency ran under everything for 12 years. You habituated to it so completely you stopped hearing it as a separate thing and started hearing it as the sound of being alive. It's quiet now. You notice the quiet the way you notice an appliance that's been running for years suddenly turns off in the middle of the night. That is worth something. That is worth a great deal. You want to be fair to the number. But the quiet is not the same as the meaning. And you are learning, slowly and with some resistance, that they were never going to be the same thing. There is a notebook on the desk in the second bedroom. New one, black cover. You've had it a month and opened it twice, once to write a list that petered out after 4 items, once to close it again. The first company started on a legal pad on the floor of a different second bedroom in a different city, a name circled in pen, 12 options, 11 crossed out. You know something now you didn't know then. You know exactly how much is ahead. The year 3 exhaustion and the year 6 hiring mistake and the year 9 client who almost walked. You know the weight of payroll the second week of December, and the weight of a resignation on a Wednesday afternoon, and the weight of a contract that falls through after 4 months of work. You know all of it, every room in the building. And the notebook is still on the desk. You finish at the gym, drive home. Dana left coffee in the pot. You reheat it and stand at the kitchen window watching a delivery truck navigate the street outside, the driver taking the tight corner with the patient economy of someone who has done this route so many times the difficulty is no longer difficult, just part of the shape of the day. You go to the second bedroom, sit at the desk. You open the notebook. You write one line at the top of the first page. A question you've been carrying for 6 weeks without putting it anywhere. What is the problem that needs solving that everyone else has walked past? You look at it for a while. The room is still mostly empty. The furniture isn't back. But you've sat in this room before. Different city, different apartment, a legal pad on the floor, and something that had been accumulating for 4 years finally reaching the place where it had to go somewhere. You know what comes after the question? You turn the page. You start